Hey guys, welcome to one of our reviews. I'm Worm, this is the Pro Roton. Today we're going to be doing another review from VapeGear. This is a Genesis style atomizer, and yeah, we got it free of charge. It won't affect our review in any way, shape or form.
Not at all. What we're doing today, guys, is the AGA T4. New AGA T4. It's not in the box. Yeah, so what we're going to do, we're going to go straight into a close-up, guys, show you exactly what's happening with it, and then we'll come back up to us and do what we do. Right, guys, quick little close-up of the AGA T4 from VapeGear. So, just a very quick wash around the body. There you go, top cap, 510 drip tip, as we come to use to you guys. A bit of sort of what you pip sealing or whatever you'd call that, counter sinking going on in there. You've got UD AGA T4 written up there. Some guys love that, some guys hate that. Then you go down into this, sorry guys, you go down to this sort of brass section here. You've got your well, I'm not really caught with that. Looks like a flower leaf to me, but it could be anything. Like it's just a viewing window, isn't it? Let's be fair. And then you've got some holes around here, and then in the bottom you've got a 510 connection. Sorry, flathead screw in there to obviously make your connection to your battery. So there you go. These holes are actually air feeds, and we'll get into that, I guess. But let's go. So let's unscrew it. Screw cap, guys, not your traditional O-ring affair. Going in there, you've got your sort of chamber, okay, but your chamber actually ends here, okay. So you've got a decent hunk of metal between that and the actual top of your chamber, which you can see there. Obviously some screw threading on the inside. Other than that, it's very uneventful, to be honest with you. There's no air hole size or anything to go through here. That is what it is. It's a top cap with a reduction that's about there. So, top cap. And then we get into this bit. So, what do we do? What do we do? Okay, right, first we'll take this tank apart. What you do is you unscrew the bottom section like so, obviously keeping hold of this here. Now, when you do that, we'll go through that in a second. There will be, if I use my little screwdriver, a little your positive pin, sorry, a little screw with a bit of it feels like sort of silicone or rubber around the outside. Obviously, that tends to insulate between your positive and negative, which sits in there. That is tiny, guys. You be careful of that one, because that one likes to go down the sink. I've in fact just pulled that out of the U-bend in my sink, or work sink, because that's what happened to me. It's the first time it's happened, but it does happen. Into the tank itself, brass here, stainless steel at the bottom. The connection between the two, I'm not sure how that's done. It might be push fit, but it's very snug. And then you've got an O-ring at the bottom there. To seal off your tank, some screw threading at the top, and that's about it. Obviously you've got your windows sort of both sides. Here's your tank, Pyrex glass on this one, guys, so lovely stuff. It's a decent thick sized tank, and obviously that would then pop into there. Fairly simple procedure. Let's get into your deck and your connecting section, I suppose. Right, O-ring, that O-ring slots on there, guys, as you've just seen, and obviously it will make a seal around your 510 at the bottom. And what you've got here and here is a couple of air paths, air inlets to enable your device to be air fed. That's pretty much what it is, guys. Up the top you've got the holes, but we'll go through them as we go up to the top side. Whilst we're here though, your air feed, if you can just see, you coil there and you coil there, you can see that one better. They're your air feeds, okay, so your coils have got to be in front of them, guys. No adjustable air placement on this, that is where they are, which is perfect because it's directly above the wick holes. So yeah, that is what it is, guys, alright. Whilst we're here, you have got your two wick holes, you've got your two negatives, which are here and here, and then you've got your fill hole, which is up here. Now these wick holes are pretty damn big. I would say these are 3.2, 3.5 mil. They're actually very substantial. They're nice and huge. And obviously it's just a simple trapping system, and then at the top you've got your centre post, and that's just a simple sort of wire trap under a screw. With the air feed being where it is, you have got to spend a little bit more time on your coils. Alright, you'll see that I've left the coils in this. I found no need recently to be undoing coils. We're using micros, and Genesis is no exception. Micro on cotton in a Genesis works lovely. But there you go. So the builder we left in it, guys, if you want a complete re-wig, unfortunately I'm not going to give you one because I have no need to. What else have I got to go through? Not a lot really, to be honest with you. There's a little well around here. Can make building slightly difficult. It's not really necessary, I don't think, for this device, but it's there. It's not impossible by any means. The build's in it, and that is what it is. But that's about the strength of it, peoples. So what we'll do is quickly put it back together, show you how to put it back together. So it's basically O-ring on here. Okay, obviously Pyrex glass tank is inside there, and that is what it's supposed to be. And obviously you've got the benefit of this is it's screw thread at the top, so that will sort of start you off. I would then grab this piece and push her into the bottom. You can feel when it bites and just give it sort of half a little turn, like so, and then continue screwing it down. I mean, at this point I probably would grab a little screwdriver, to be honest with you, and just give it a little dingle wingle. And tighten the tank up. That's about the strength of it. I mean, obviously guys, your centre pin has got a level of adjustment in it. It's not a massive adjustment, but it's more than enough to compensate for them devices that have got different lengths, positive pins, if it's not adjustable, or enough adjustment for you anyway. What we're going to do, I will recut on this for you guys. I'll just chuck this on a mod quickly, just because I prefer to work on a mod. And there we go. The advantage of this, compared to like things like the AGA T4 and even the RSST, what goes on at the bottom isn't really going to impact what's happening with your coils. I mean, with the T2, you either did your mod, like I just have, and it would push your centre post up, causing slack coils and issues. With the RSST, it's a fairly similar thing. I know the RSST isn't UD, but you know what I mean. In here, this is a dual 0.42, no, it's not, it's a 0.45 Canthal micro. Seems to be working quite the stuff. No real issues. Let me just give one of these coils a little crimp, guys, just because I'm not happy with the procedure that's going on here. That's better. Right, so let's lock the mod off and we'll chuck some cotton in it. I mean, obviously a lot of you guys will be familiar with the auto dripping mode now. It's been around for a little while, and in comparison to sort of mesh doesn't even compare in flavour, ease of build, or anything like that. So I mean, I know this is a mesh device, but I'll run whatever I think is the best for the device, and that is definitely cotton in pretty much all cases, if I'm perfectly honest with you. What I'm intending to do, or to be doing, I mean, if you want to, guys, you can, and it might be easy actually, I'll show you that. It might be easier for me to cotton this off of the device actually, because it's one of the tanks that you can do that on. So let's go back to scratch. Let's undo that. It will undo with that, guys, okay, with that screw in there. It'll undo itself, but just be aware of it. Alright, so what we're going to do is make a couple of cotton wicks. Obviously you're going to want to not make them too high. You're going to want to rhyme in. You're going to want to not make them too wide, sorry, for them wick holes, which is going to be a struggle in this device because it is humongous. But what I do is I literally roll a normal cotton wick to what I would be sort of gauging as a standard thickness for my 2mm drill bit, which is what is in there. It's what I use for all of my micros, which would now be right there. And then what I'll do for the bottom portion, I'll grab sort of here and I'll then rip some more off from that bottom portion to make sure that it's definitely going to be thinner than what's in the coil just above it. And then I'll do your standard procedure of sort of giving it a little twirl. I know auto dripper mode, this is kind of an adaptation if you like, because auto dripper mode you tend to have just a little bit poking into the tank. I tend to go all out on it, to be honest with you. So yeah, it's just, that is what it is. Yeah, that's fine. So a nice tight crimp, because obviously we're probably not cutting these right at the end bits off. So basically just sort of pop it through your coil, it'll come straight out the bottom, give her a little tug and we're in. And then the same thing with this one. Through the coil, there we are. Give it, oh hello, we've got a little bit of bunching going on here. Then obviously didn't do a little bit of a wrap tight enough. Let's just lose that bit, I think. The advantage with cotton, guys, you can just lose bits if that's what you need to do, no problem with that whatsoever. And there you go. Okay, we're there on that side. And grab me little snippers, and then what I would do, I mean that's the bottom of your tank there, so let's have a little clip about there and then one about there. I haven't found the need with this tank to tilt at all. Like like I say, it's an adaptation of auto dripper, because auto dripper you'd have to be tilting, and I just haven't found the need to do that. So one of them ones, guys, it's just one of them setups that is banging. And then a little cut there. Now I leave that intentionally, and I will show you why. Not specific to this device, I do it with most devices, but I leave it intentionally. So then, as you can see, I'm putting this back together. See, and there we go. There goes your little screw, guys. This is the thing with this one. Alright, give it a little screw in to the point where I screw them. Not run off. It is one of them ones, guys. Me and small things just don't seem to get on. The worm with this is better than me, but if you're a bit bare-handed like I am, that little screw can run off. And I did check pretty much every atomizer I own when I did lose it down the sink before going down the U-bend after it, and yeah, not many fitted, if I'm honest with you, and none of them fitted properly, so be aware, people. And then now what we're going to do, remove our fill screw, and this is the same size as your wick holes, so it's nice and generous. Alright, and what we'll do is fill up our tank to start with. Now the size of this tank, having just measured that there, sort of 2.5-ish, there or thereabouts. It was a rough guesstimate, people. Nothing's ever bang on with us, you know this. And then prime the wicky dingles as we would usually. Alright, so plenty on the coil, and obviously, guys, if you do, it's up to you. I mean, if you was having wicking problems when you was using this in this fashion, you could leave that screw out, and then obviously you've got sort of 3 ways of wicking. The reason I'm using a syringe, guys, is just because that's where this juice is. So yeah, when using a syringe, be careful not to do what I did earlier, and that is push it too hard and there's too much pressure and then it explodes, because that's not good. So wick up them coils. It's fairly easy to do this. Like, if most of you, I'd imagine, would be on cotton, and if you are on mesh, and obviously you follow your standard mesh procedure, when using this, I've run this on mesh. It's not my preference. It's more work than cotton is. It's not my preferred flavour off of mesh, especially since I prefer the sweeter juices. On fruits and stuff, then yeah, but the sweeter juices for me, there's nothing that even comes close to cotton. And then what I've been doing is grabbing my little fill screw, which I will need a proper screwdriver for. Whoop, hello. And getting my fill screw back in, because I haven't found a need to leave it open. Screw her down. Like so, no need to go stupidly tight. And what I've been doing is laying one across here like that, and then one across here like that, just because I can, really. It's just juice retention. This is a low resistance build, guys. With a standard resistance build, you wouldn't need that at all. I've been trying to make sure I leave it clear at the back. Okay, so by doing that there, leaving room at the back of your coil, just because your airflow goes all around the coil, and the same on this side. Okay, hopefully you can see that there and there. So that's just a big old juice retention, site there. It's not necessary, but I always like to have more juice held up top if I can help it. Let's face it, gravity works with you, and it's easier for it to get from there to there than it is to get up. Let's just chuck this on the mod, make sure we've got some vapour going on. There you go, plenty of vapour. And then it's a simple case of top cap on, and then on goes your drip tip. Lovely. That, I must say myself, is one of my favourite looking setups. When I first saw this device, in fact, I thought, well, there's not going to be loads of mods that go with it, and turns out I was completely wrong, because then all of a sudden within that week I got 3 mods delivered and all of them went with it. So yeah, awesome looking setup. What we're going to do now, guys, is come back up to us, have a nice little vape.
Alright guys, that was the up close of the AGA T4 from VapeGear. Obviously, like you see Genesis style airflow coming in through the centre post, which is a new feature. Not overly new, but it is kind of coming towards that sort of way with a lot of Genesis. Yeah, there is another one that I can think of, but this is about the T4, so I'm going to carry on with that. There you go.
Did forget in the close up, guys, just the box you get it in. Alright, I was just in a rush basically, so yeah, you do get a nice presentation. Let me get close up. Get a nice presentation box. Okay, you'll have your little AGA in there. You've got a ribbon pull to pull it out, and then if you flip her over, open up the back, and in there you've got some spares and stuff, which is nice. It's nice to have. It's nice to have a very nice presentation box. So
yeah, UD seems to be doing a lot more sort of that, going this way, sort of thing, a nice little presentation box. Whereas before it was kind of like a lot of them when they first come to the market and that they were just kind of in a cellophane packet with all the spares in there, sort of thing. Now they're kind of realising that people enjoy the experience of opening it from a box and seeing it all nice and crispy in its little presentation, going, ooh.
There you go. Yeah, very nice, guys. I mean, I love this thing on this. I think it's an awesome looking little setup. Living with it, a few things to be aware of, guys. The build itself, you've got to be careful using cotton like I am. As I've seen in the video, put it at the back. You've got to be careful not to have any exposed to them screw threads, because you'll put it around as you screw the top on. Obviously, it's a screw on top, so that's nice. It's nothing. It's not coming off, is it? So that's nice. Air feed through the centre post. I mean, you've got 4 holes drilled on the outside of the body underneath what I think look like sort of flowers, if you like. It's not, you haven't got any adjustment with it, okay? I mean, the drawer itself, 1.5 to 1.7 mil, I'd say, there or thereabouts. You can just about do a mouth pull on it, and you can definitely do a lung hit on it, which is nice. What I was talking about the drawer, you see in the close-up, centre post has 2 holes that come through it. You've got to be careful with your coil placement, because otherwise you are just going to get throat hit. Not much flavour. Not really a problem I've had, to be honest with you, when re-wicking this, because you just got to pay a little bit more time making sure your coils are where they are. And if you're re-wicking it in this fashion anyway, where you're using cotton, your coils stay where they are, you just pull your cotton out and bosh off you go again. Obviously, it's not like the T2 where you've got to disassemble your coil and your build every time you want it to change and take the tank apart, whereas this, pop, there you go, it's all off, and you've got your build section one place and your tank section in another place. So yes, definitely, I like that. I do like that. It's something that a lot of the new tanks are incorporating. Another thing to be aware of, as I pointed out in the close-up, that little screw at the bottom, the base, that is tiny, and if you're not paying attention, you can get it to run away from you. This ran away straight down the sink, and I went through every Atty that I've got over there trying to replace it, and I eventually bit the bullet and was like, I'm going to have to go through the U-bend. So the sink came apart to get it back, which is a bit of a pain in the bum, because you don't get a spare one of these screws, unfortunately. It's just how it is. So yeah, just bear that in mind, guys. That little bottom screw, take that out first and keep hold of it somewhere, or ideally all into a very fine colander and give it a rinse in that manner, and it's not going anywhere, is it? So,
or put the plug in and rinse it and take it out before you take the plug up. So
yeah, I suppose that would have been an option, wouldn't it?
But you know, guys, you live and learn. We always say, like, be careful when you're rinsing all these kind of like stuff with the small things in. We occasionally forget. We're only human. Stuff happens, but we got it back, and you know.
Yeah.
We was probably still none the wiser, to be honest, because we just go headstrong in there, go rush, come on.
Yeah, it's one of them ones, definitely one of them ones, guys. I was sat there going, oh, I'm going to have to message Kirsty and keep it, I've lost it. But no, U-bend catched it for me, so there you go.
Alright, guys, we do like a 5-point hit list. Basically, we give up marks on different ranges of what we consider like is what you need to know, basically. So we're going to go through them now, and then we're going to have a little flap on the end of it just to finish off.
There you go. So, looks will be first. I'll let you go first, Minjana.
Looks. This is going to be kind of a 2 thing, because it's brass and stainless, this atomizer, and you've obviously got brass and stainless mods out there. It looks better on the brass mod. It just does. On a brass mod like we've got at the moment, 20 out of 10. It is sexy looking. On the stainless one, it's still a 10, but the brass one, you just can go, You look at it on the stainless, and it's kind of like, sort of thing. So it's kind of just like, they're both 10s, but one, on our preference, is just the stick it on a brass mod.
There you go. It's 22mm, guys. I don't know if I mentioned that. So it does fit with a lot of 22mm. We've just got a load of different 22mm mods in as well, so we've been experimenting. Yeah, looks for me, I'm definitely going to give it, like, I mean, this setup here is the best looking setup I've ever owned, I believe. Looks in general is definitely getting a 10. I like it. It is one of them ones that you're going to have to be aware when you buy it of what you're going to put it on, if you like, and you're going to be sort of noticing where you're going to stick it, because it's brass stainless mix. If you are just going to use like NEM, for example, and then you're just going to use a standard drip tip with it, it's just one bit of brass in the middle isn't my looks preference. I'd have to use at least a brass drip tip with it, and hopefully mix and match that NEM with another brass one. Brass stainless mix has been my preference recently, and this definitely come through at the right time. So yeah, looks for me, I'll definitely give it a 10. I really think it looks gorgeous.
Usability, it's Genesis. They're not the most usable device out there, because they're okay. I mean, there's just certain things you've got to be aware of, like transporting these things when you're going out. They do have a tendency to weep e-liquid if they go onto a sideways tilt or anything.
Especially on mesh, isn't it?
Yeah, especially on mesh, but even on cotton, we found a lot of these ones are recently coming without bung holes for the fill hole. and juice, it won't like pour straight out, but it will over time. Especially if you're walking and it's knocking, it's racking it backwards and forwards, and that juice is going to come out of there. So even sometimes when it's even at a slight angle, still, because it's going to be wicking, then the juice is going to be hitting the top as it's moving. It's just something to be aware of with Genesis. So usability of this is it's not super low. It's just stuff you've got to be aware with Genesis. Is really, I mean, all Genesis is really sit around about an 8 for usability, and I think this is the same. Is about an 8, just because there are little user errors that will go on when you first get a Genesis.
Usability for me, firstly, you can't single coil it, it's only a dual because of them 2 air holes. Now, I mean, I did say to the worm what I would do if I went to single it and I was going to use cotton, would be to single it with cotton, and the towel that comes off, I wouldn't cut it, I'd wrap it around that post in order to block off that air feed that would go to the other coil. So it's doable, but not really included as stock, if you like. You've got to do a little bit to get it. So that's sort of a negative, I suppose, on usability. As well as I said, it's a Genesis. This one hasn't got a open fill hole. It has got a screw in there, which is a plus, so that makes that problem a little bit less. But even still, I found that mesh and movement just don't get on really, unless you're in a car or something like that. Other than that, wrapping a coil, it wasn't too hard. I mean, you have got that little lip around the edge, but it's nothing too intrusive. The main problem is just making sure them coils are in line with them air holes. So if slightly off, and it can make a big difference. If you're only hitting half a coil or whatever, it can make a big difference. If I was using mesh, it'd be a lot harder for me to adjust that placement. I'm not saying it'd be impossible, because it isn't by any stretch of the imagination, but definitely a lot harder than just pushing a coil over like I do with cotton. So usability, I'm going to have to give it a 7, purely because I don't think necessarily it's as usable as other air-fed devices are. Like, for example, I mean, I would say the T2, but they had a nasty hot legging issue, but some of the new Genesis tanks that are out, it's definitely not as usable as those for the Genesis setup anyway. So yeah, there's 7 for that one for me. Yeah,
maintenance on this one, like Mr. Brown said, we vary a lot on where we put our coiling. This time I'm putting it into maintenance. Yeah, the coiling in this is not hard by any stretch of the imagination. It's just if you're used to Genesis style tanks, it's just you just got to learn to adapt to it, basically, like you do with any new device. This has just got a little bit more of an adaptation kind of time rather to other Genesis style tanks. Other than that, I mean, the fact that because you've got the airflow through the outside of the body, you haven't got that issue because of the top screws on. That the top's going to fall off, and like we found, like most of the problem you get is with the Genesis when you're carrying them, especially out and about, the top will fall off, and then it's going to knock that coil, and that aggravates the actual movement of mesh, especially, and even cotton as well. That you can pull a little bit of cotton out, and it allows for juices to flow, and then you've got a pocket full of juice. Your modern battery's all covered in juice, and it's just a problem. But on this one, not so much an issue because it's obviously screw, but the airflow coming from the bottom, so that's definitely a plus for it. And like we said in it, it's, the airflow it's got that perfect balance between kind of lung pull and still able to do mouth pull. It's just right, you know. Anything more or less, and you're not going to be able to do either or sort of thing. But maintenance wise, clean it, recoil it. If you're using cotton, it's going to be a case of just rip out the cotton and just rinse and repeat the cotton procedure, which is simple enough. It's going to be the same pretty much with a lot of other Genesis style. That is, depending on your usability, 7 to 8 on Genesis for maintenance.
There you go. Maintenance on this one, I mean, as we said, there's not loads and loads of parts, but there are definitely parts. It's the same with any old Jenny. You've got some O-rings you can lose, you've definitely got a screw in the bottom you can lose. So yeah, it will take a bit of a hit for that. It depends on what coils you're going to run it. If you're going to run it on cotton, auto drip, a dual, the maintenance is low, because you haven't got to recoil it as often. That's just how that works. You just got to replace the cotton after a dry burn to get rid of any crap. Basically, it's on the coils.
Build up,
that's the buildy dingle. And obviously give it all a nice rinse. The fact that you can do that, you can remove the build section, your coils, and your build will stay intact. Even on mesh, in fact, as long as your mesh is gripped by that coil a little bit. And you can rinse all the tank out, so changing for juices won't be as difficult. And obviously it's a Pyrex tank as well, which is also a big plus, because your juices aren't going to crack it no matter what you're using. Maintenance for me, I'm going to give it an 8. I don't think it's the worst by any stretch of the imagination. I personally find this easier to maintain than I would a T2, purely because I like to change builds so often. And in this, every time you put new cotton in, it's like a new build. So yeah, for me, I'm going to give it an 8 for maintenance. I don't think it's too bad at all.
Flavour and vapour of this. The amount of vapour is going to be determining your setup in your juice a lot of the times, and most of the time, to be honest. But what the setup we've got we use microcoils, cotton, low ohm. The Vapor is comparable to every other Genesis. I mean, maybe not so much of the ones that we've drilled out, which is modified by us, but as it comes stock, it's comparable to them. It just is. It's hitting around about a 9. It's not as much as we've had on other kind of builds and that, where we tend to like vape lung house and that. But yeah, it's a 9 for the amount of vapor you get. It's comparable to every other Genesis we've tried, and it kind of hits the mark. Flavour is the same as well. I mean, we're used to cotton now. We use cotton in all our Genesis. We know what they taste like, and on every kind of pretty much Genesis we've got now. Yeah, it's a 9 as well. I mean, I believe there's better stuff out there, but for the ability of having a tank, with it being as good as most drippers out there, and not just off the better drippers, which is where the 10s are lying, yeah, it's good.
There you go, flavour and vapor for me. You've got quite a nice pour on this. You can lung hit if you want to, and I think you get like ample vapor. I think you get more vapor than you would in a stock T2 or stock RSST or on any of them kind of devices. I'm going to give it a 10 for vapor for sort of what it is, and the fact you haven't got a massive air feed. You've got a decent size draw, but it's not monumental. So yeah, I'm going to give it 10 for vapor. Flavour, I mean, as Worm said, our preference has always been cotton, not mesh. I prefer the way that things taste on cotton, and running this on my preferred build, I think the flavour can be a 10. It can. It's very juice dependent as well. I've noticed some of the thicker juices obviously don't work as well in these auto dripper modes, but that applies to any tank. I noticed some really thick juices just don't work that well in the low res setups, and this being dual core, obviously you're halving your resistance. It's going to be, even those of you guys that run normal resistances, you're never going to make realistically a dual core 2 ohm in this, are you? You're going to have it done at a 1, so it's always going to be a lower res build. So yeah, I mean, flavour, I think I'm going to give it a sort of 9-10. I think it's very good still, and it works really, really well. I think the air, if you get them cools just where they're supposed to be and everything's fine and dandy, the air feed and all that over the core, the flavour comes out really, really well. It comes out some like comparable to some drippers we've got, not the highest end, but definitely some of the drippers we've got is comparable to those. Yeah. So wicked.
Overall, things to note about this one: you got the air feed coming through the centre post, and obviously pushing out onto the 2 cores setup you have in there. Definitely a plus. Not so much a good fault for this one is the fact that you can't single coil it. I mean, you probably can if you want to like tweak it a little bit, but that's going to be down to you, obviously. Other pluses for this one, it's brass. It's two-toned. I love the fact that this is two-toned. I don't think there's any other at the moment that are two-toned this good. This is the right amount of brass to the right amount of stainless in this one for the looks it's going for, and on a brass mod, it looks epic. Little gripe. Is the small screw at the bottom, which we lost. We found again, but we lost. I imagine a lot of people are going to have probably issues with that one. It would be nice if there was like maybe 1 or 2 spares in there, but that's obviously down to UD to supply them, not VapeGear obviously. Other than that, it's a good Genesis. It really is. It's I think it's one out there for like people who like doing both long and mouth pulls. Like we said, you can do both on this, and you don't have to tweak anything. You've got to change nothing to it. You literally just, instead of taking a mouth pull, you just take eyeball. It's as simple as that. The core setup is a little bit more fiddly, but that's just something with all the Genesis you get used to the new device within like probably the first call, to be honest. But it's just being aware of it basically more than anything. So overall, I really like this as a Genesis style atomizer. I mean, we're kind of coming round to the way of the Genesis at the moment. We're kind of on a little fad of Genesis at the moment. So I'm going to give this one a 10 overall. I think it's worth every penny. $24.99. You can't go wrong. You really can't.
There you go. As one said, yeah, $24.99. We've got to mention the price. I just ran over and made sure it's correct. One thing to note, though, VapeGear have now included tax and all of their prices that are listed on the site, which is wicked. Because some people will used to say to us, "Oh, it's not actually this price. You've got to add 20%." It's the price now, right? $24.99. Overall for me, yeah, there are a few things to be aware of that you don't get with certain atomizers, so you've got to make sure your coils are in the right place. You move your coil to match your airflow as opposed to your airflow to match your coil. Single coil does take a little bit of effort, but there are a lot of positives with this. As Worm said, it's a 2-tone, so it will match them brass mods. It's 22mm, which everyone loves a 22mm mod, and there's a lot more 22mm mods coming now to the market than there were a while ago. 23mm was the big fad a few months ago. Now 22's everywhere, so it will blend with them. The body does patina slightly, but it's nowhere near a level of patina as some of the brass that we've had in our possession, so that's not really a big downside for me, because it patinas very well. It's not a nasty patina, it colours evenly all the way around, so it just gets deeper colour of brass. I'm not the biggest fan of the flowery kind of windows, and not because necessarily I'm not a big fan of that design, because you guys not a flower, what are you talking about? Windmill, yeah, windmill. But in certain lights it can be difficult to read your juice through there. I mean, even if the juice is a dark one, it can be difficult. If the juice is a clear one, I did struggle a little bit in the little sort of not as well lit areas to see how much juice I was having, which, I mean, doesn't really bother me too much because I get a dry hit and I refill it, but it's just one of them things that you might want to note. If you are going to fill this on the fly, you're going to need to have a screwdriver with you, because it has got a screw in that fill hole, but I'm pretty sure an RSST bung or whatever else can go in there. What else? We've got big size wick holes in this one. They're actually very, very nice and generous, so you can wrap a big fatty bit of rope with a massive bit of mesh, dual coil both sides, and have a real sort of steam machine, so that's obviously a plus. Other than that, I mean, there's some noteworthy, I suppose, features in this in terms of the airflow, and the fact that that is your positive connection as well. I think it's very clever how they've done that. I think the price is very good, and I do like this a lot. Very, very much so, actually. That's Worm said he really likes this. I really, really like this, especially on this mod. So yeah, for me, overall's a 10. I think everything considered, there's a couple of niggles, but I've always got niggles with bloody Genesis tanks, because, well, they're Genesis tanks. So there's always niggles. I mean, guys, we're drippers, so when you go from a dripper to anything, it could be a clear, there's still niggles, because they're a lot more complicated in our mind than just replacing cotton in a dripper and drip and puff, drip and puff. But you can have the experience of a dripper with the tank and its Pyrex and all that kind of hoo-ha. Really good stuff, 25 quid two-tone, awesome stuff. So yeah, 10 from me for overall. I think it's a very, very nice device.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much gone through everything in our overall there, guys. Normally we would have that after the thing, but we've kind of incorporated on this one, so I think we're just going to say a big thank you to Keith and Kirsty, especially Kirsty.
Of course, Kirsty.
Always Kirsty, for sending these down to us. We love dealing with VapeGear. They're very nice people, and I'm quite sure if you get in touch with them, they'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Indeed, link will be below if you wanted to go straight to the site, and obviously it'll be up there as well, but you can't click on them for a link, it's down here. So yeah, guys, if you want to go and check out VapeGear, they've got some nice stuff on there and some awesome juices to go with your tank. So yeah, wicked. I think we're pretty much done.
Yeah.
Pretty much done. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I've been Mr. Proton. This has been The Worm. We'll see you soon.